Okay. Again, if you turn anything in, it should be on the counter. If it's still there at the end of class, I'm going to throw it. Said that was our last chance to get stuff in, and I just spent 10 minutes coloring my gradebook. So it is what it is, unless you come have a conversation with me. And there's some extenuating circumstances. Yeah, that's a lot of missing stuff. I would expect that there's probably only going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4 of you that hit that 80% course completion mark, so that you can potentially get the Good Samaritan option, do better on the final, get a higher grade on your class. Yeah, I think there's only going to be about 4 of you out of, what, 18? So, it is what it is, freshman. We got through the first 2 pages, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. First 2 pages was chapter 4, and we really bogged down in it because that was an awful lot of word stuff. Okay, we are not going to have to do all the word stuff anymore. Well, we'll get more word problems, but chapter 4 was all about words, kind of preparing you for, all right, this is what graphs mean, this is what coordinates mean, this is what words mean. Now let's get into the mechanics of it. So, you should all be at number 7 in your review packet, like I said. You could basically just not do much for a long time, but come in and lock it in for these 3 days, doing really good with your review, taking notes, because the review is what you get on your final. Okay? What you get on your final is this review and everything that you can scribble on it, and it will look problem for problem just like this, just different numbers. Okay? I do have every bit of your stuff graded. I just haven't put it in Campus yet. Okay? But everything is graded. There's still 1 or 2 tests here and there missing. Everyone's got review. Brennan, there should be a review in the back there. Okay? So, you lock it in for these 3 days. Wednesday, today, and then Tuesday. If you are missing a test, there's not many. I think there's like 2 or 3 total tests from the last 3 months missing right now. If you are missing a test, Monday is your last day mercy mission. Spartan time, you come and get it done, or it's just going in as a perma 0. Okay? So, write good notes. Try to engage a little bit with what we're doing, and that'll be that. I will say the last 2 tests, I can tell a handful of people that maybe might have gotten spooked into actually trying. That was nice, because our split over the year of grades, when we're talking about F to A range, was more like that at the beginning. It's been mostly that for a while. But now I'm starting to see more of this. And then this very last test is kind of this split between those who tried and those who didn't. Those who did their work and those who didn't. Those who were screwing around in class and those who didn't. Like, it was a clear cut. These kids are doing what they're supposed to. These kids aren't. Okay? Like, some of you absolutely crushed it. We even had our first couple of hundreds on some tests. So, yay. All right, the last two tests were, as a group, pretty good. Again, all that'll go in tonight. I have it all in the grade book, just didn't have time last hour to actually get it in because I was double checking all of your work. Man, there's only like 4 of you that got a genuine method of organization. Like, just label it. Keep it in a folder. Keep it in a binder. Something. Okay? Not rocket surgery. Slope. You remember your magic formula? What be it? Okay. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The common pitfalls, the things that I would tell myself if I was getting to use this on a final are, y'all, use parentheses. Set it up with a bunch of parentheses before you go plugging numbers in. It will help eliminate the I screwed up a negative stuff. Now, it's not going to completely eliminate it. Sometimes we just make mistakes, but it'll go a long way. What's another thing before we actually started making the slope? Not everyone needs to do it, but what's something that will help us to do formula? Labels, okay? Label them first. Tell yourself that this is the first x and the first y. The second x and the second y. Then it really is formula plug and chug. Slope is parenthesis minus parenthesis, parenthesis minus parenthesis. And in there goes. y2, y1, x2, x1, plug and chug. 1 minus 2, 3 minus 2. Getting a negative 1 over 1 is a negative 1. Maybe that's another note to write to yourself. Always reduce them. I saw that on a couple of the tests, where as we're graphing things, we left it as negative 4 over 2. Things like that. It's a small thing, but small things add up. So formula plug and chug, make sure you reduce it, but sometimes weird things happen. In this case, when I plug in x1, y1, x2, y2, 2 minus 2, negative 5 minus 4 is 0 over negative 9. Do we remember? One of them was 0, one of them was undefined. Which one's this? Fight! Grab a calculator. Check it. 0 divided by 9. No, 0's a number. Stop hating. 0. Literally 0. Now, it is a horizontal line, yes. Those would be good things to write to ourselves. Slope equals 0 is horizontal line, and it's always the equation y equals number. If the slope is undefined, that's a vertical line, x equals number. Okay? Think of it this way. I am taking 0 and dividing it by a number. Who wants pizza? Y'all like pizza? I like pizza. I'm a pizza fan. Here you go. I have 0 pieces of pizza, and I'm going to share it with the first 9 students who ask. So generous. Yeah. How much do y'all get? 0 divided among 9 people is still 0. If it's the other way, that's about, what, 5 inches or so? I dare you to divide this into 9 pieces. Okay, I can do that. Chop, 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 chop. Divide it into 2 pieces. I can do that. Divide it into 0 pieces. Right? You always get the kid who's like, ta-da! I did it. That's subtraction, not division. Okay, so these kind of notes are good to write. And just like we did last time, our review is going to be monkey see, monkey do. I do some, you do some. Go get your slope. And get rid of that before I flick it. Right. Now that whole thing about 0 must be no solution, that came up a couple times on that last test. I saw a lot of kids who thought 0 just means quit. Okay, 0 is a number. Okay. Set it up with parentheses. Label your numbers. Go ahead and plug them in. 5 minus 2, 0 minus negative 1. You see that parenthesis minus parenthesis negative 1. That's why we put them there. There's so many kids who will see 0 minus negative 1, they'll just write 0 minus 1. Well, the negative's already there. Yo, math ain't nice. They ain't just going to do something for you. Okay? So add the opposite. Call it 3 over 1 is 3. What if I got something real weird? What if I did this minus this and I ended up at negative 34 over 51? How do I know if that reduces? Y'all got a good calculator on hand that has fraction mode? Why are we doing a math review and half of you don't have a calculator? You should probably have one of those. I mean, as soon as we let you have a calculator in middle school, you stopped thinking about fractions, forgot how to do everything with them. So you better make sure you have your calculator with you in case you run across fractions. Does everyone know where your, whatever calculator you normally use, whatever you are going to use on the test, okay? Do you know where your fraction buttons are? Okay. If you're using any of my calculators, the graphers over here, alpha y equals. So green alpha button, y equals. That's if you want to put an x in when you're plugging in equations. Okay. And it's not 0, it's theta. It's Greek. You'll get to that later. So alpha y equals brings up a fraction menu. You just hit enter on box over box, n over d. Okay. So everyone knows where theirs is. Some of them are like an ABC button. What's up?
I don't know where it's at.
Alpha.
Yeah, I hit alpha.
Y equals. Oh, it's kind of rubbed off there. Okay, you got like these 30XAs, the gray ones. I know a couple of us still have those. They're really popular for middle school classes. Those have an ABC button. 30X2S's, these things. These have been the workhorse of the American education system for 20 years. God, these things are everywhere. You should know how to run one, because even if you don't have one, you're probably going to end up using your friend's ABC button.
Negative 34 over 51.
Oh, I just made something up.
Okay, good.
I just want to see if we can reduce it.
Okay, good. Just making sure.
What is it? Negative 2/3. Okay. Both divisible by 17. But not too many people know multiples of 17 off the top of their head. Okay, so that was just something I made up. Down here we got negative 2 minus 2, negative 3 minus negative 3. Again, if you miss the negative there, not only are you wrong, but you're going to be uber wrong because, womp womp, negative 4 over 0. Now I'm trying to divide 4 things into 0 buckets. It's not possible. Undefined. I use the symbol for empty set an awful lot because we use it a lot in upper math. But some classes, some teachers, I think the whole lot of you are just scattered to the 9 winds next year. Whether you're going to, a handful of you are going to be coming in here for my algebra class. That's an instructor permission only one. There's Jameson, Spear, and McCreary all have an algebra 1, at least one section of. Depends on the teacher. Some of them want you to say undefined. Others want you to say no slope. They're all relatively synonymous. It's kind of like I can talk about this thing that I'm wiggling in different contexts. I can call it a thumb. I can call it a finger. I can call it a bug smasher. I can call it a phalange. Okay, it's got different names, but it's the same thing. These are different ways to talk about there ain't one. Okay? So just be aware, whoever you have for algebra next year might change that up on you. I want you to look at B and D. Do you remember the shortcut? What was the shortcut to determining 0 and no slope?
There was something about where the 0 is placed. I think,
Well, if I actually subtract it, then it's just above or below. Before I even do the math, you remember? If the y's are the same or the x's are the same. Okay, in this one, y's are the same. Meant it was 0. In this one, my x's were the same. So that meant no solution, or no solution, no slope.
Do you have like markers? Or like pens, colored pens?
Yeah.
I just don't like burnt pencils.
I got a veritable Office Max up here. That's how teachers roll. Behind my magic decks, yes. Well, I have to hide them because I got a kid in my algebra class who stole like an entire box of colored pencils. Have fun.
Sweet, thank you.
Your pencils are up there. Okay. So, section 5.1 was about slope. 5.2 was about direct variation. So maybe in between them you want to write what it means. Direct variation means y equals k times x. Direct. No beating around the bush. No multiply it by this and then subtract something. No multiply it by this and then square it and then add something. It's just multiply by this, done. Kind of like your paycheck. I earn this much per hour. Done. Take this times 11. I work this much times 11. There you go, directly to answer. Now, your actual paycheck is not direct variation because you also have deductions, right? Any of you actually have jobs around the area? Okay. Official jobs, not under the table cash jobs. Okay, I worked as a farmhand all throughout middle school, part of high school. I got paid with so many checks that had written in the memo parts expense because then they could deduct it for taxes. And then I got it cash, so I didn't have to claim taxes, and that was totally illegal. Don't do that. It's called direct variation because I just take a number times my input, boom, I'm at answer. That also means if I divide by x, this, called a constant of variation, will just equal y divided by x. That's it. And if things vary directly, that means y over x will always equal y over x no matter what y and x are. So I get to Sailor's favorite, Jesus fish. You get to set up a proportion. Y over x should equal y over x. It's just y1 over x1 will equal y2 over x2. They will compare directly. So they told us, write a direct variation equation that relates them. Well, k is y divided by x. Y divided by x. K is 8 divided by -4. So if I know k, I can plug it in and write my equation. Y equals -2x. Y divided by x is my constant. So this means whatever I put in for x, I'm always just going to take it times -2. So find the value of y when x is 7. So y is -2 by 7 is -14. Now that's if I have to write the equation. If I have to write the equation, then I have to write this part before finding that part. We had a little cheater trick for it that involved proportions and just cross multiply divide, where I could instead say y over x is y over x. Y over x is y over x. They said y is this when x is that. Go find y when x is that. And then I can multiply the two that line up, divide by the one that doesn't. Snack that smiles back. Okay? I would take 56 divided by -4. So regardless, you're going to get -14. There's just two routes to get there. One is write the equation, one is Jesus fish. Okay? It depends on the directions. If it says write the equation and then go find y, you have to write the equation and then go find y. If it doesn't say that, you can skip all this work and just put your ratio.
So on the final, is it just gonna?
I don't remember,
Okay.
but usually what I like to do is keep the directions the exact same. So you can write these notes and tell yourself, remember to write the equation. Hint, hint. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you can always, I said there are two methods. One of them involves more writing. I can still do the more writing method to get my answer. Yeah. So, your turn. Go do that one. Okay, fairly quick. Y equals K times X. And we just said K is Y over X. So put Y over X. Reduce it. And say Y is, divide by 3, 5 halves, X. There's my equation. Now, find the value of Y when X is 5. So I'll say X is now 5. How do I turn 5 to a fraction? Over 1. 5 by 5, 2 by 1. 25 halves. And because it's a terminating decimal, if you said 12.5, I'll take it. When do I not take the decimal? Okay. If it's a terminating decimal, that's fine. But if it's not a terminating decimal and you cut off part of it, you cut off part of your answer. So you got to be careful with that. All right. Well, section 5.2. You notice it's basically just a problem from each section. Like, that's our review. This is the big idea of that lesson. Okay, after that, slope-intercept form, by this point, that should be just burned into your retinas. You go and ask your parents about algebra. They'll say it's got letters with it. Something y equals mx plus b. That's it. That's all they'll remember. But they remember it because it's that important. Slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. We can also write next to that y is rise over run, where I always go left to right like a book, so that my rise is determined by whether it's headed uphill or downhill, positive or negative. So that's my m, x plus, and then the b is where I'm starting, 0 comma b on the y-axis. And if we need to go to word problems, we've been getting a lot of this with our systems. Rate x plus start.
Isn't the start just a line?
Yes. Yeah, if you want to put next to this. Yint. Okay. I'm saying for the graph versus the word problem. So, should be pretty straightforward. Where do I start? Go find any other nice integer intersection that this thing goes through. To me, it looks like there and there. So between any two of those, how do I get my slope? Rise over run. Actually make the triangle between them. I can go over 3, up 2. So I would say run 3 and up 2. I can also go up 2 this way and then run 3 that way. Regardless, if I go run 3 and up 2, that rise and run is going to tell me what my sign is, whether it's positive or negative. Okay? Your turn. Oh, and yet again, reduce. If at all possible, reduce. Don't leave something as negative 2 over 4. Reduce it down. Watch your signs. You know what uphill and downhill looks like, whether it's positive or negative. Remember, I can use any two of these points to find my slope. Most of us are probably just going to, okay, run one, down one. But it doesn't have to be just those. I could have womp, womp. That's fine. I could run 7 and go down 7 because run 7 and down 7, well, down means negative. And then reduce it. Okay? So still the same thing. What do I put in front of the x, though? Just the negative. Okay? -1 isn't reduced. Just negative. I understand there's a 1 there, little invisible one. That's okay. All right, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes of it. Write the equation. When we were going through chapter 5, we're getting a lot of needless points off of our tests and our daily quizzes and stuff by not reading the full directions or not following them. Do you remember what all of your forms are of the lines? Okay, this one is y equals mx plus b. But the other ones was point slope and standard. Said I'm not big on vocabulary, especially because I have open notes for everything. No point in doing vocabulary when you're just going to copy down the definition. But you got to know the definition of these terms or else you have no idea what they're asking. There's a number of us who we found the equation perfectly fine. The directions said put it in standard form with integer coefficients. And you left it in slope-intercept. Okay, so we've got to know what our different forms are. Since number 10 on your review looks like this, you can be just about guaranteed number 10 looks like this on your final. So write the steps. Step 1, label. Label.
That's right.
I can't spell. My ability to spell flatlined in 4th grade. I will admit this. Okay. Yeah. Well, 2 more classes in any which direction. I'm certified for English, history, science, math. I've got 3 SPED licenses, PE. Like, if I went back to school for 1 year, I could teach everything except French, Spanish, and band. So, I don't want to. Label them and put them in the formula. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay, now that's going to change how we write our equation here too. So stage 1, I'm going to say x1, y1, x2, y2. Slope is 4 minus 4 over 1 minus -3. And just like Aiden said, that's one of our special guys that we just talked about. Slope is 0. So if you recognize that right away, you don't have to write out slope. You just say, okay, slope is 0. Remember, the more you write, the more you're willing to write out at Preston, the more likely I'm going to give you partial credit, even if you're wrong. Okay? It really sucks when you're wrong, and I know exactly what you did, but you got no work to back it up. -5. Okay? I should show you some of the stuff that pre-calc was doing. It took a page and a half for one problem. Kid asks, where did I go wrong? And I point at the first step and say, you wrote 4 instead of -4. On my tests, that's 8 out of 9 points for that problem. Because I can follow all their work, because their work made sense. They did it right, they just forgot a negative. I forget stuff all the time. That's how first hour got more brownie points off me. Because I'm not properly caffeinated in the morning. Okay? Please write things out. Now that I'm there, you had a choice. You can plug y, m, and x into either y minus y1 equals m x minus x1, or y equals mx plus b. If you plug it into point slope form, you distribute, rearrange it, you're done. If you plug it into slope intercept form, you'll solve for b, and then you have to put the pieces back together. I know that most of us preferred that method. Something about just having parentheses and it looks longer, we don't like it. Okay, so since most of us wanted it that way, I'm going to say y equals mx plus b, y, oh, which coordinate do I use? Whichever one you feel like, but don't mix and match. I can't take this -3 with, well, okay, this time I can mix and match because the y's are the same. But say that was -4. I couldn't take -3 with -4. It has to be these two together or those two together. Okay? So y was 4, m was 0, x was, I think Sailor said 1 because probably easier, smaller. Okay? And solve. And that is step 3. Step 3 is to either rearrange to y equals mx plus b, or find b, write the equation. So 0 times 1 is, well, 0. So just 4 equals b. And there's so many kids who would forget that step. We'd get to b equals 4 and just quit. Write the equation. Y equals m x plus b. And can I simplify this at all?
Yes.
0 times anything is 0. 0 plus the thing is the thing. So my answer is y equals 4. Now I'm going through the whole process like that because it's not always going to be one of our special slopes. Because it's my special slope, there's a number of us who could have just seen, hey, these two are the same. Y equals number. And we'd be done. I'm writing out the steps because it's not always like that. What happened if that was a -4?
So we would still have to figure that out if it was on the test.
Yes. Because I want you to look at the other one. The other one, you have to write out all your steps because it's not special. Okay? Syndrome style, when everyone's special, no one's special. Okay? These, it is not one of my special types. So you have to go through the full process. That's why I went through it. Find your slope. Plug slope, y and x into your chosen form. Rearrange it into the equation.
Hold on. I would like to do it in the other form. I just have to see if I'm doing it right.
Okay.
So I know I really like to do it the other way.
You do whatever way you want to. It is final time. Final time, you just do it. However, if you're following the rules that are in the instructions, I don't care. It's like when we get to ACT review for kids. I'll have kids who are in my class like, wait, but you told us to always do it this way and show our work. That's because I was assessing it. Now time matters. Here's a button on your calculator.
I just have a question on this. So this is kind of stupid, but
Mhm.
you just distribute. So 1x minus 6, and then you
Add 1
process.
over. Because you want y equals mx
Okay,
plus
so
b.
okay.
Yep.
So, oh, okay.
So, stage 1. Plug in 1, negative 2, 6, 3. Get 3 over 3 is uno. It's not always pretty like that, but this time was. Now that I have the slope, I have a choice. Some of us would like to y minus y1 is m times x minus x1. Some of us would prefer y is mx plus b and solve. Either one's okay. We said m is 1. Pick your coordinate. 6, 1. If I was given a choice, I would choose positives. Both of them are going to work, but if I was given a choice, I would choose 6, 1. Make sure. I know it says 6, 1, x then y in the coordinate, but then the formula is y then x. Be careful about that. Y then x. And they're both going to come out the same. Here, I distribute 1, get y minus 1 is x minus 6. Here, I get 1 equals 6 plus b, and solve. With this way, everything's already together. It looks more complicated at the beginning, but after I distribute, I just add one thing and I'm done. Add 1, y is x minus 5. But here, I found b, I now have to put the pieces together to say y is 1x minus 5. Most of us in here preferred the method on the right. At least when we did it in that chapter. I'm a big fan of the method on the left because everything's in one spot. Maybe that's just me. ADHD go burr. I forget things. I'm going to forget that one has to come down here. I want everything in one spot because then I know where everything is. Yeah?
On the final, if we do like y equals 1x minus 5, are you going to count that
I'll probably give you the frowny face of doom and just,
Okay.
I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Okay? No, I probably won't. But that's not every teacher. You've all had a math teacher that said if you didn't do it this specific way, if you didn't do it my way, you are wrong. Okay? Unless I'm trying to assess a very specific standard, then I'm not going to do that. If I have to assess a standard, then yes, I have to do that. It's literally my job description. But you pick whichever way you want to, and you do it your way. Both are legal. You know what? I said both are legal. There is a third way. If you're feeling frisky, you got some graph paper on hand. Couldn't you plot 6, 1 and 3, -2? Count boxes for your slope. Go find the y-intercept. If I had a kid do that because they didn't want to do any of this number soup stuff, good on you. Okay? Graph-a-fa! I'm just going to say graph them all. Graph all 4 of them right now. Don't do it with pen. We want to make sure you're right first. And then I'm going to go through. All 4 of these are a different type of graphing. Each one's a different flavor. Yes. Mm-hmm.
This right here, I'm quite curious if I graph that right, because with the 2.5 and then just one up, down 1/4.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
That works. Okay, y'all had I didn't say this on Wednesday, but y'all had that advisory day on Tuesday. So you probably have been in your school email this week. You should have gotten, I believe, I'm pretty sure, on Tuesday. If you have missed 5 or more, or no, you're allowed the 5. If you have missed more than 5 absences for this class, not relating to COVID, not for school activities, if you have missed more than 5 classes, you should have gotten an email, and I'm pretty sure I texted too. School policy, I can't do anything about it, says you got to pass the final. If you don't, no credit. Well, then it goes to, if there's the rare instance where a kid has a passing grade, but they had too many absences and they failed the final, those rare instances, it goes to kind of a little committee group, some administrators and teachers get together and just go through, and are there any extenuating circumstances? Is there anything that was kind of off? Okay, maybe we let it slide, but it's a thing. I got no control over it. I can just have my input if that happens. Personally, I think it's trash. We shouldn't be grading compliance and attendance. Like, if you only showed up 6 times this semester, but you showed me on a final that you know it at a 75% rate, all right, fine by me. Like, that's my personal philosophy. I don't write the rules.
You can keep up in this class, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I have that.
What would happen if it showed up like 5 times a year, but they like got like all the homework done, like 80% of the homework done? What would happen?
As far as I'm concerned, you have a conversation with me. I can't change the school's policy, but I'd be cool with it. I don't care. I've got some students who, the reason I do this, the video lessons, unless I just plain forget, is sometimes it's just a lot to come to school, and our school doesn't address that. Sometimes mental health is a thing, and we don't talk about that. You're supposed to leave your personal issues at home when y'all know sometimes life's hard and it sucks. And just coming to the building is tough. If that has not been a thing for you, consider yourself fortunate. Okay? I would always err on the side of if a kid's willing to try, I'll do everything I can for him. First one, slope-intercept form. Fairly easy, right? Start here. Slope is 4 if I have to write it as a fraction to remind myself. We always go left to right like a book, and that's positive, so I head up. Up 4, right 1, up 4, right 1. I was about to ask solid or dotted line, but that's coming up later. Connect the dots. Y'all use a straight edge. Some of you, your lines are atrocious. It's a straight line. Make it a straight line. I don't know how many kids. Yeah, at Preston. Okay.
No, I use them straight. So, lines are
There's a couple of you, and you know who you are, that you're like, what's wrong with that? Okay. Y equals 2, we also just talked about this. Whenever I have y equals number or x equals number, those are my special graphs. Boy, that'd be a good thing to write next to this. Y equals number is a horizontal line. X equals number is a vertical line. Writing that y equals rise over run plus start next to this one would be a good idea because these are the 4 different primary types of graphing that we've seen. Okay, so if it's y equals 2, it is this or this. How about this or that? That. Okay, it's a horizontal line instead. Oh, there's a box. And point slope form. I know there's some of us who are adamant that we're just going to distribute and we're going to rearrange it and turn it into slope-intercept form. Some kids are adamant that they have to do that. Yo, bass-ackwards and bass-ackwards. It goes through the point 1, -3 and has a slope of 1. It's called point slope form because it gives you the point and then gives you the slope. Yeah? What? Slope of 2 over 1. Words are hard. Who do what? Bass-ackwards. Remember, it's y minus y1. So minus a negative is how I got +3. So I can make a point at 1, -3, and then I can use a slope of up to right 1, up to right 1, up to right 1. That is one way to do it. I start at the point 1, -3, and I use my slope to up to right 1 the rest of my points.
If you rearrange it, doesn't it transfer over?
It should still be the same thing.
It's the same line.
No, it should be the exact same thing. Let's try. 2 times x, 2 times -1. So we'll have y plus 3 is 2x minus 2. Who's got to move?
3.
Subtract 3, subtract 3. Y is 2x minus 5. So if you want to rearrange it, that is also okay. I'm just going to give you that form because this is a type of graphing we did. If you just don't like that type of graphing, then put it in the slope-intercept form. That's what I tell all of our juniors who are reviewing before their ACT. Like, you don't remember any of this, do you? No. Do you remember y equals mx plus b? Yeah! Then just do everything like that because it works. See how I start down at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a slope of up to right 1. Up to right 1, up to right 1, up to right 1. So no matter what, it's still the same line. Okay? Contestant 2. Well, I suppose it's 4, but on the board. Is, do you remember graphing by intercepts after doing it so many times with our systems lately? How do I find the x-intercept? 0 in for y. Just, there you go, x-intercept is 10. I will have to change the scale if I do it that way. Slam a 0 in for x and divide. Y-intercept. 10 over 4 reduces to 5 halves, or you could say 2.5. If I want to graph something by intercepts, I just need to make sure that I can hit both of those points. Right now, I got 5 this way and 5 that way. Not enough. So I'll make my x's go by 2's. I'll make an x-intercept of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and a y-intercept of 2.5. That's also a ratio. I went back 5 boxes, up 2.5. So I can go back 5 boxes, up 2.5. Okay? Or, if you don't like that, just rearrange it. I would say x plus 4y equals 10. Subtract x. 4y is negative x plus 10. Remember, math is communist. What you do for one, you do for all. Divide it by 4, divide it by 4, divide it by 4. And now you'll have the line y is negative 1/4 x plus 5 halves, or 2.5. Start at 2.5, down 1 over 1, 2, 3, 4. Or up 1, left 1, 2, 3, 4. See how I don't need to change the scale to do it this time.
But it's still the same graph.
It is still the same graph. You're just seeing less of it. Like the, was it? I did those years ago with a couple of classes. We just had some dead time. You ever done the Kahoot with, it's like logos, like business logos, and it'll show you just a corner of the Snapchat icon. And it's, right? Where you just see a part of it. What is this? Well, you're just seeing a smaller part of the graph. It's still the graph. And I use that example because that's how Miss McCreary ended up on my board of shame. As my student teacher, we were doing that Kahoot. And I was rocking them. I was doing great. I was kicking all the kids' butts. And then that showed up and everyone was laughing like, who's the last one? Who doesn't know what this is? Oh, was it the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or something? I just see like white and yellow. What is that supposed to be? Like Snapchat. Who? This was like 5 years ago, but still, who? Yeah. Anyway, parallel. perpendicular? Neither. What are parallel? Okay, I like both of those. The symbol for parallel is two really squished together lines, almost like the word parallel. Okay, and a couple of you said it, same slope. Another way to say that is something like 3/2 is parallel to 3/2. What about perpendicular? Okay, it's called negative reciprocals. Flip and change. Okay, perpendicular is like a big upside down T, and their negative reciprocals, 3/2 is perpendicular to negative 2/3. Flip it and change it. And then neither, like if I had 3/2 and then positive 2/3. It's not a negative reciprocal, so it's not perpendicular. They're not the same, so it's not parallel. Neither. But in order to do that, you have to actually know what the slope is. And I can't find the slope if it's not in slope-intercept or point-slope form. How many of you just looked at the 18 in front of the x and were like, well, guess not? I hope not. So I got to rearrange this guy first. Put our Paxton line right there and say, who's got to move if I want y equals mx plus b? Zero that out. This is another very common error I saw in the last two tests. Forgetting that negative is still with the 3. That's why I tell you to actually zero it out, because if you don't zero it out, you're going to miss that negative. I swear a third of the class missed that negative on that one problem. Negative 3y is, are these the same kind of critter? Don't you dare try to call it negative 3x. Okay, it's a turtle and a giraffe. They do not go together. Fun to watch, doesn't accomplish anything. What do I still have to do? What am I dividing? By what? Both sides, so everything. Negative 3, negative 3, negative 3. All of the above. So 1, reduce positive 6x, reduce negative 5. So what's the only thing in there that I care about? Okay, the slope is the only thing that actually matters to me right now. I'm looking at this slope and this slope so I can compare them. Since 6 is the same as 6, they are parallel. Okay, so they're going to ask me parallel, perpendicular, or neither. That means I need to know the slope of both equations, and I compare them. I do some, you do some. Christ compels you. Okay, y'all cool with just real quick if I do this? Subtract 3 from both sides. Because it wasn't exactly in slope-intercept form. So I can still see the slope, but some of us, if it's not in that form, we can't be sure that it's the slope. So 5/2 and 2/5. What are they? Nothing. They are neither. Because they're not the same, and they're not negative reciprocals. So, you know, well, are you just friends, or is she your girlfriend? Like, neither, Dad. We're just doing math. Okay? Getting there. Okay, if I say go through this point parallel to that line. If I want to be parallel to this line, what is the only thing in there that I care about? So parallel to this, 5 is parallel to 5. And again, you get your choice. Are you a y minus y1 is m times x minus x1 kind of person, point slope form? Or are you more of a y is mx plus b kind of person? You get your choice. Either way, I'm going to plug in y, -1, -1, m, 5, 5, and x, 2, 2. Here, when I subtract a -1, that's just +1. When I disturb it, I get 5x minus 10. Over here, I will solve and say -1 is 10 plus b, subtract 10, b is -11. Here I'll subtract 1 and get y is 5x minus 11. Whereas with that one, you got to remember to put the pieces together at the end. You do which one works for you, but I personally am all about the one on the left. But if you're about the way on the right, do it the way on the right. Okay? Do it the way that makes sense for you. Like, who cannot function in silence? If it is dead silent, no, I can't think. Like, the world is just, what was that noise? What was that tick? Why do I hear the buzz of the lights? Why is this? Why is that? Why is that? Like, my own ears are thumping at me. Some people can't stand silence. Please put headphones in when you're testing. Like, that should be just a basic educational concept, but we have so many teachers against it. Who, if there's any noise happening, you're driven friggin' bonkers. Everything just needs to shut up for me to think. Okay? You do what works for you. You do whichever way works for you. All right. Be careful. That would also be something to write as a note to yourself. Be careful about the wording and the directions. Because now it doesn't ask for a parallel line. It asks for a perpendicular line. You don't want to get trapped by the directions. Believe me, I don't do that to be a jerk. I'm not just trying to get you. It's the directions will get you. Okay, I mentioned the juniors, seniors do an ACT review a lot because I run that at least half the time. And anyone who's taken that test trying to get a good score so they can get into a particular college or they want a certain scholarship, if you want to do a dual credit class as a junior or a senior, sometimes you need a particular ACT score. And they'll tell you the directions. 9 times out of 10, it's the directions on the problems that are screwing them over because they word it so goofy. They'll write a whole paragraph and it turns out all they wanted you to know was what's the slope. And it was this big honking paragraph before it. So, what's the only thing in this equation I care about? Womp, womp. And 8 is perpendicular to what? Negative, and flip it. 1 over 8. Because remember, this is 8 over 1. Right? Any number can be written as a fraction by putting it over 1. So its reciprocal is 1 over that. Okay? The number of people immediately crossing out or erasing, that's a note that you need to write for yourself. You need to tell yourself. Okay? And then, who prefers original? Y equals mx plus b, and put it together at the end. I'm just curious, like, who prefers that method? Who prefers extra crispy? Put it into point slope and rearrange. Okay? Who doesn't give a flying fornication? Okay. Like, I'm just curious. We're about half and half. So depending on your style, y minus y1 is m by x minus x1. Or y is mx plus b. Y'all heard the songs with these before, maybe in middle school? Kind of depends. I know Greenwald isn't much of a songs guy. Who's the other one that teaches 8th grade math? That must be a new one. I don't know this one. Okay. Like they sing it in the tune of YMCA. Village People. YMX plus B. And then there's a whole, like, some teachers will make kids dance to it, the whole 9 yards. That is not my jam. I don't sing, I don't dance. It's bad. You do not want to see it. Okay. But I do have an X and a Y, and I do have formulas, and they do like playing with colors. So 10 goes here, negative 1/8 goes here, 4 here. 10 goes here, negative 1/8 goes here, 4 goes here. I can disturb it. Careful with your signs. Negative 1/8 x plus, what is 1/8 of 4? Right? 4 over 8. 1 times 4 is 4. 8 times 1 is 8. 4 over 8 is 1/2. Same thing over here. I'm going to get 10 is negative 1/2 plus b, and I'll have to solve. So I'll add a half over. B is 10 and a half, but I will call it 21 halves. Over here, I'll just add 10 to the other side. So y is negative 1/8 x plus 21 halves. So I can do that, or I can take the slope and the y-intercept and squish them together. It's your jam. And then, it's been a hot minute since we've done one of these. And I do only have one on here because it just takes longer to go through. Trend lines. Remember scatter plots? Good thing we reviewed all that chapter 4 stuff about scale and how do I fit my stuff on the graph. I want you to look at your table. Heights and arm span. Does your arm span depend on your height? Or does your height depend on your arm span? Right? Like, is it, well, I got short little arms, so I'm not very tall. Or is it, I'm not very tall, so I have short little arms. Okay? Or you're built like a gorilla and you just have longer arms. So label your X and Y axes. I legit had a dude tell me that the last time I had a suit made. Like how they have to measure you for stuff. You're kind of built like a gorilla. Shut up, dude. This is already awkward. So, I mean, he's not wrong, but. So I need to label this as bad. Height in meters. And then I'll label this as arm span in meters. And what do you want to use for a scale? Start with height. I need to go from highest to lowest, 1.5 to 2.1. Go by 0.5, I'd have 0.51, 1.52, 2.5. It'd fit. 0.24681, 24682, point just a hair off-road. I think from previous problems, we know that Amy's okay going off-road. Y'all remember the little lightning bolt trick? I can use that too. Because from 0.5 to 2.1 is only 0.6 by itself. So I can actually cheat. It's not cheat, it's legitimate math. I can lightning bolt this thing to say I'm going to start at 1.4. 1.5, 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, 1.9, 2.0, 2.1, 2.2. Okay, the lightning bolt trick still works. Remember, I can just kind of jump up to 1.4. I'm just going to say, I don't need to see this part of the graph because it doesn't matter. I want to see this part of the graph because that matters. Anyone who started with, I think Aiden said go by 0.5, someone else said just screw it, go by ones. Okay, you're not wrong. You can do that. Your graph is going to be really small and compressed, but you can do that. Okay, what about the y-axis? Same thing, but careful, I need to go all the way down to 1.4 at least. So maybe I'll lightning bolt my way and start at like 1.3, 1.4, 1.5, 1.6, 1.7. So you got to be aware that on this type of problem, it's kind of a crapshoot as to what you're going to put on there because you have to make an appropriate scale. Now, if we're talking about the final, since the appropriate scale stuff was really in chapter 4 is when we learned it, I might try to find a problem where the graph already has the scale for you, so you can practice the trend line stuff. The trend line stuff says I need to make a scatter plot. And go to 1.5, 1.4, dot, 1.8, 1.7, dot, 1.7, 1.7, dot, 2, 1.9, 1.7, 1.6, and 2.1, 2.0. Do you remember what this is called? When I have a scatter plot that kind of does that.
It's a positive.
Positive something.
Oh. Positive.
Starts with C?
Climb. Positive. Climb. Use.
Starts with a C, ends with a correlation. Hey, you're all good. Okay. A positive correlation. Remember, correlation means they go together. You're going to hear this a lot in life. Correlation is not causation. Just because they go together, just because they have a pattern, doesn't mean one causes the other. Okay? Correlation is as this goes up, so does this. And the 3 rules for my trend line are I want to hit at least 2 dots. I want to go through the middle of it as best as possible so that there's the same number of dots on both sides, if at all possible. And the points that you use and the line that you make might not be what other people have, and that's okay. I have mine as a decimal approximation for both slope and y-intercept, and I'm just looking at your math and if you're kind of close. Okay, so I would probably, I mean, these are almost in a perfect line right there. I'm just going to treat him as a little bit of an outlier because if I can hit that many points, like, I'm doing pretty good. So write an equation for a reasonable trend line. How do I write an equation now that I have a line? Pick points. Well, I went through 1.5, 1.4, and I went through 2.1, 2.0. All the same stuff that we just did about make a line between 2 points is still fair game. Step 1, find your slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 is 2.0, y1 1.4, x2 2.1, x1 1.5. What if I did those backwards? What if I said this coordinate minus that coordinate? Because they would both be negative. So negative over negative is, I would get the same thing, okay? It would cancel out, it would be fine. So I got 0.6 over, well, that's nice. Now, go get the rest of your equation. Y equals mx plus b. You just found m. Use either one of your coordinates. I'll use this one because it's got less decimals in it. 1.4 is 1 times 2 plus b. Subtract negative 0.6. So write an equation for a reasonable trend line. I got y equals 1x minus 0.6. That's what I got. Might not be what you got, But as long as your slope is kind of close to 1, and your y-intercept is kind of close to that, all right, I'm looking at your work for that. Estimate the arm span of someone who is 1.6 meters tall. What do I do now? Plug it. Ooh, I can look at my chart. I can actually look at the graph, go to 1.6, up here. Looks an awful lot like 1.5. But if I have a model, I can just plug 1.6 in here. So what is 1.6 minus 0.6? 1. 1 meter. Predict the arm span of someone who's 2.2 meters tall. I saw a gal at Safeway this morning. She was easily 6'7". She was a literal giant. She was huge.
So you just throw the 1.6 meters
And the 2.2 in there. Okay. Now, yeah, it's going to go ding, so we don't have enough for 15. But 15 is the end of chapter 5. I'm hoping the chapter 6 stuff doesn't take us as long because it's what we just did, and you did fairly well on it. Okay?
Do you think we're going to turn into a math book soon?
Oh, your actual textbook?
Yeah.
Since we're not doing stuff in the book anymore, if you would like to turn your book in on Tuesday, I would strongly recommend that.
So, just to get this clear, the 1.6 you start in for x, and then you'll get your answer?
Yeah,